What is in a Paedophile Manual and how does it help the child molester? Part 1. Paedophile manuals usually contain 100+ detailed pages written by a child molester for other child molesters to sexually abuse children without being caught. The manual contains images of children, but not ones being abused, to avoid the additional charge of having indecent pictures if caught with the manual. Many paedophile manuals are available on the internet for download, and here we will look at an overview of what they contain. Justifying child sexual abuse. It is rational to assert that if an individual were to compose a handbook explaining criminal behaviour, they would also need to downplay or negate criminal intent. The primary motivator for all types of child exploitation is broadly reinterpreted as love, a distortion of the emotional concept that society generally perceives as beneficial and wholesome. Abusers prefer their actions to be characterized as innocuous play rather than as detrimental expressions of paedophilic inclinations. The guides idealize the prolonged mistreatment of children by employing phrases such as your little spouse. Choosing a victim. Examination of paedophilic online networks and research on convicted sexual offenders indicate that perpetrators choose victims based on various criteria: accessibility, perceived vulnerabilities, and attractiveness. This concept posits that predatory offenders assess potential victims along a continuum of risk based on specific qualities. The greater the availability, vulnerability, and desirability of the individual, the higher the likelihood of victimization. Availability versus accessibility. Very little was written in the paedophile manuals about availability, which is due to the omnipresence of children. They can be found, for instance, in every shopping mall, park, or playground. The manuals clearly state that although youngsters can be frequently and easily observed in daily life, gaining physical access to them is far more challenging. The publications aim to provide information intended to bypass the inherent protective measures that adults utilize as safeguards against abuse. They indicate that minors, particularly very young children, are seldom left unsupervised for prolonged durations. The authors indicate that suspicions arise when an unfamiliar adult establishes contact with a youngster. Likewise, they caution that even if an adult is known to the family, one should exercise restraint in showing excessive interest in the youngster, as such enthusiasm may be perceived as atypical. Numerous manuals emphasize the vulnerability of youngsters and offer recommendations on how an offender can effectively exploit their underdeveloped defenses. Instead of concentrating on situational vulnerabilities, one could contemplate leveraging children's receptivity, trust, and negate. Most child molesters indicated that they endeavored to transition their victims from the classification of available to accessible by establishing familiarity with the children or, preferably, by becoming trusted adults within the victim's immediate circles. Vulnerability versus approachability. Perpetrators characterized their preferred targets as minors who exhibited greater reticence and social withdrawal, lacking confidence, or with low self-esteem. One paedophile manual stated, "It does not matter how or where you want to find children, but sad and lonely children are the children who you would want to look for. This will not only make your search and approach very convenient, but in addition to that, extremely safe." Desirability versus suitability. In paedophile manuals, there is no mention of the desirability of a potential child victim, as the author knows that child molesters do not have a type, as such, but are generally attracted to children. Pedophiles are frequently sexually attracted to children within a specific age range or gender. However, deviations or crossovers regularly occur. Therefore, any youngster of the favored gender and optimal age range will be sufficiently appealing to a pedophile. Consequently, it appears that the most significant construct for pedophiles is aligned with appropriateness rather than desirability. Suitability, as outlined in the manuals, refers to the assessment of a child's specific features that render them an optimal target for intervention. The paedophile manuals recommend that appropriateness assessments be performed in private environments to discover critical elements, including the child's capacity for secrecy and the nature of resistance the subject may encounter. Children exhibiting solitary, disengaged behaviour or behavioural issues are regarded, according to the author of a manual, as the most susceptible to manipulation and are typically disbelieved when they disclose. The authors of the paedophile manuals evidently believe that suitability is mutually established. One author suggests, "You should not seek a child, rather, a child should seek you." Indeed, if a criminal is solely focused on perpetrating a single crime, the necessity of assessing fitness becomes far less pertinent. Due to the inherent unpredictability and instability of young children in maintaining confidentiality, if an offender does not seek to cultivate a sustained relationship with a child, the manuals advise executing a strategy termed hit and split, in which the offender swiftly abducts a child, perpetrates abuse, and promptly vacates the location.